Today with us, we have Prashant. Prashant started his career in the tech domain, working with organizations like IBM and Sun Life. He quit his IT job and went on to work with the slum communities in Gurgaon and Delhi with special attention to child education. In 2018, he started his organization, Samantha Foundation, to work with tribals, pastoral nomads, rurals, and forest dwelling communities to enable access to quality education to children. Welcome, Prashant.
Thank you, Santosh.
So, tell us a bit about Samantha and what does it mean as well?
So back in 2017-18, I was in the Northeast working with the tribals, and I was, born and brought up in the Northwest Himalayas. So I had always had this in the back of my mind that, I want to work with communities back home. So once I came back from the Northeast, I started to, explore the region, started traveling along the forest areas, the different topographies within the region. During the course of these travels, we met several communities, several different, set of people, had good luck conversations with them, and we tried to understand that who needs connections or networks to the outside world most. That's when we realized that communities who were living inside the forests, who were living on the periphery of the forests, the challenges that they were facing were far more than what other communities living in urban slums or urban communities, or even for that matter, mainstream rural communities were facing. For simple things like, access to, I would say, education, a school, or even a primary health center, or for example, a PDS, a public distribution shop. So these were completely misplaced for them. They weren't there. So I think those experiences and meeting the people, talking to them, gave us the motivation and the courage to set ourselves out there and start working with them. So we started, and that's how Samantha was conceived. So Samantha is basically an acronym. It's Sir stands for Samman, Mer stands for Manavta, N stands for Nyay, and T stands for Tatparta. That's how Samantha is made, equal. So that's how it got formed, and that's what we were aiming for, that these communities need all these things. So that's how we set up the organization. Initially, we started working with forest schools. These are schools which are set up in forest areas, run by the forest department, not by the government. So you've got a forest guard as a headmaster and a daily wage worker as a teacher. Those were the schools we started working in 2018. And slowly and steadily, as the years gone by, we also started supporting other schools who were in the periphery. So obviously in the forest areas, you've got reserve, you've got buffer, you've got core forest areas. So we are primarily working in the reserve, and the buffer areas, this outside, because most of these and it's a national park. It's a tiger national park now. Earlier it was elephant national park. So you've got communities who are living in the peripheries. They are different communities, pastoral nomads, tribals, OBCs are there, scheduled caste communities are there. So different communities. We focus on education. And one of the core approaches at Samantha have always been community ownership, to look at change in the long term. That's what Samantha believes in. And that's why we've been building local youth as well. And we run a fellowship for the local youth, especially girls.
That's wonderful. So, from an IT professional working in MNCs, how did you decide to take this plunge? What kind of led you to this decision?
So I'm from a atypical low income middle class household background, and back then it was all about engineering. The buzzword was you become either a doctor or an engineer. So, and somehow back when I was in school, there wasn't much in terms of the child deciding for themselves. It was about your parents, your family, your elder brothers and sisters, what they were doing, what your friends were studying. So back then I pursued that, and obviously I had to look after my family as well. So I went on to do my engineering from IIIT Kolkata, got placed with IBM. I started working with IBM, and a lot of encouragements started flowing in from family. Oh, great! Now the next big thing is the visa. You travel to the US. So, and I think that was a very key point for me, because I like every other chap. I went with a passport to the embassy to get my visa stamped, and but there was this constant turmoil within me. So every day, I used to work in the office, and these IT environments are like completely sanitized. You are in a plush cubicle sitting, and it's like the world is on the computer. So, but you used to move out of the office, and there used to be this chai ka tapri, this dosa wala bhaiya, paratha wala bhaiya, and I started talking to them. I used to sit with them, and slowly and steadily, I came to know that these big offices had come up on lands, on agricultural lands, which were owned by them. And today they were selling tea and coffee and parathas. They were telling me that, this huge vast land used to be mine, and I used to do farming. So, and then they shared how the challenges of education and health stopped them from becoming economically stronger. So that was I think the first click that happened to me, that I felt, okay, so let me delve into this deeper. So I started volunteering with them. Monday to Fridays, I used to work in office. Saturdays, Sundays, I used to be in the village, nearby village, working in the school there. So that whole interaction, that involvement, and then I felt I need to think of something. How do I bridge the gap between people like me who are on this side of the aisle and then those who are on the other side I think that is how I also started involving my friends and peers in the companies to kind of volunteer. And that's so these were like constant things that were happening. And then one day I was kind of in a quagmire that shall I take the plunge? Could I be the one person who could connect people on both the sides? So if I switch the side and I go on the other side, would people who are today my peers and my friends would be more willing to come over to the other side and join hands? And I think that was the decision that I had to take. So a lot of pressure from family, friends, they were like, ye kya hai? What is this? Why do you want to quit your job? Good paying job, man. You need to go to US, you need this and that, give GMAT, go for an MBA. I was like, but my heart was like, I wanted to be with children. I wanted to see the change at the level of a household and a village, and not just sitting in Delhi and saying things are changing somewhere else. So I think had to create a lot of resistance. I mean, a lot of people were like, pushing and pulling me in different directions. But finally, I stood up firm ground. I said no, and people need to trust me, and I'll show you how things will happen. So I took the plunge despite the challenges, and I started working then with communities in Delhi, slum communities and all. So I think two key points for me, I would say. One is obviously one has to kind of dig deep and trust oneself more. So I think that digging is something that is a challenge nowadays, when you are like constantly bombarded with so much all over social media and everywhere. We don't look inside. So one point was that, and second is you need to trust your instincts more. You need to do more with your instincts. They're really nice, if you trust them.
Fabulous. But that's really great, and actually not. I mean, not to be very humble towards you, but that's what differentiate leaders from the rest, and the fact that you're able to take things forward and get people onto your side of the journey as well. Correct. That brings me to the very important question, which I asked a lot of people in this space, is that when you believe in something and you believe your heart, that's a different story. But how do you manage to get the people who are not inherently part of you, right? To believe in your journey, get them motivated to be part of your mission.
Showcase or demonstrate change. That's the first thing. That change happens. And second is it can be done with kindness and a sense of humanity. And that's how people start, connecting with you. So for me, as I was sharing that, appealing to the sense of humanity in an individual and believing in change as well. So I'll share an example of this. I've had so many friends from the corporate world, from my engineering, years and all, who are working in different parts of the world today, US, Australia, wherever. The number of Google Meets, Zoom calls I've done with them and WhatsApp calls over the last 4 years is 10 times what I used to talk to them, when we were together. And all of them, today want to talk about, what's going on, how are things changing, right? Discussing what is being done, how people are coming together. So I think this belief in change that we have as a human, and then also having that sense of humanity within us, we all of us have it. So I think connecting these two dots brings in more people, for me especially, like the areas we work in. Unless and until you don't have a sense of humanity, you would seriously disbelieve that there are areas where there's no mobile network, there's no internet, or what are you saying, how is there no electricity? The government is saying electricity is everywhere, water is everywhere. So I think understanding these things, connecting with those two elements really brings in people. They start believing in you, talking to you more, trying to understand, and then also contribute as well. Yes.
Lovely. I think that is the key. So there are people who want that nudge, want that push, and they are willing to come to your side very easily. Fantastic. So if you again you're a person who likes to go deep in, and so my question is about core values. Okay, what according to you have been your core values that have helped you in your leadership journey so far?
So for me, the first and foremost is integrity. That's one of the core values for me. I believe that as a leader, if I act with a sense of integrity and truthfulness, uh, even if there is a problem or things are going haywire, it makes people come together because you start believing in that, right? There's a problem, you acknowledge it, and then you work on it. And that only happens if you stay truthful to it. Otherwise, you can always believe in something and and just mug away problems. So I think that's one thing that I strongly believe in. Second, for me, it's always been, looking at the abilities of individuals and forming that, connection to work together. As a leader, we've strongly believed that every person comes with, his or her individual set of capabilities and skills. And identifying them, acknowledging them, and then, synchronizing them together. So bring that sync is very important rather than trying to keep it all you do this. It's important to build that team system in your organization and as a leader. So I think for me these two things have been very important.
Okay, great. So, and they are obviously interconnected. Yeah, in a big manner. So, you are walking the talk. You are in the middle or periphery of the jungle area, right? Can you tell us a bit about, I'm very intrigued by the by your office space that you're sitting out of. It is not a reflection of what where you started in terms of a plush office cubicles, AC, but clearly this is much more comforting and very different. So, would you like to talk me through a bit about that?
This is actually what you're looking at right now is equivalent to a plush air conditioned office in these areas. I mean, and we've not reached it from day one. Obviously, it took a lot of time. Initially, we used to live with the communities inside the forest, and so in the forest areas, you've got areas. So government electricity cannot go inside the forest. Water supply cannot go inside the forest because that's not forests don't allow that to happen. Coming and I'm going to just get the wire and I'm going to get the bulb lighted up. That doesn't happen. So from there, we used to work there, and that's how we started building our work, indulging with the communities, building that trust, bridging it all. And this is in 4 years we've reached this place where we've come up with this. This is a typical dera. If you look at it right now, this is in the periphery of the forest. So like you got the highway, then you've got the area that we are in, and then there's the forest beyond that. So this is a place where people who got rehabilitated from the core area of the jungle. So this particular stretch that we are sitting right now is of people who at one point in time were living in the core region where now the tigers are. So in 2020, it got declared as a tiger reserve, and from then they have been releasing tigers. They've been bringing tigers from different reserves and they are releasing them in these forests. And this is a typical setup where you've got one big room. So it's one big room, and then you can have your kitchen as well inside, and it houses the complete family. So a typical structure looks like this. It has a complete family within these four walls.
Okay, okay. So, curiosity, does when you move people from the core area to the periphery or to the outside zone, you call it a reserve zone or buffer zone. I mean, whatever the right terminology is. Pardon me if I don't know that. So, does the density increase and does it help you deliver better?
So generally, when this shift happens, so there is some element of the government support. So the government somewhere or the other, initiates support because it's deliberately moving people for a reason, right? They want to set up a reserve. So it kind of provides those elements of support, like it will, create a road, for example, in the area. Then it'll also create probably a primary health center or a small school. So there is some element of support that the government will provide. This region, obviously, there are a number of households, like all those households who fell in the core area, they are here. But this is still less. So this area has around 1,500 approximately households, HHs. Then, but there are more number of people who are still there who have not been rehabilitated.
Wow. Okay. So much work to do. So, whenever I speak to people who are trying to, blend in with this kind of an environment, what I see is you get the best of both the worlds. Because when you are surviving in a forest kind of an environment, survival also depends on a lot of innovation, learning, which is being passed down. You have completed your engineering, you studied you worked in IBM, you studied in triple IT Kolkata. Innovation for you has a different terminology. So how are you blending those two? Okay, or have you experimented at all with things over the last 5 odd years to and what is sustainable according to you?
So one thing is very clear that the development or frame of development is reaching people very fast. So I'll give an example of this. So people don't know English, right? But the moment COVID happened, everyone knew words like lockdown, everyone knew words like COVID, everyone knew vaccine. So virus. So developed or the developing aspects of the world are reaching very fast. Mobiles are reaching very fast. Consumeristic things are reaching out very fast to any community right now. So from that framework, I can tell you that sustainability is at times defining it is a challenge. Defining it, why? Because see, I'll tell you, for us sustainability may be in using technology more, but to use technology you need infrastructure, right? So for infrastructure means you need good optical fiber networks, you need electricity, you need, right? Without the infrastructure, having a computer or laptop doesn't work. It doesn't help people like you and me, है So I think that definitions are a challenge in the number one. But see, for us, because we've been working in education, so for us what has been important is that how do we use the indigenous knowledge to introduce education to the community? So can we create contextual literature, right? Can we create books with the language of the people? Can we create contextual examples in learning? Can we redefine the pedagogy so that these people can themselves understand the world and then define sustainability? They are the ones who should decide it, right? I mean, they are the ones. That's why we have talked about local youth ownership and leadership. We have been working with the youth. We are running a fellowship. There are youth from the community who are members. I'll give you another example. So one of our youth girls in 2021, she went on to win the Tata Steel Samvad Fellowship. Now that's a national fellowship which is awarded to roughly 7 to 8 fellows in a year from India, across India. I mean, there are people from across India who apply. And this girl who's grown up in a forest is now a Samvad fellow. When I'm talking to you today, she has traveled all by herself this year to Jamshedpur to attend an event alone in a train. Last year was the first time she boarded a flight and a train in her life. And that has become such a big example today. So many girls and boys are coming forward. And this girl, she won the fellowship, she defined a project, and she's working for the community. That all of that has happened by itself. They are the ones who are defining it. We are not defining it. And now these young boys and girls are coming forward and doing things. So I think what we are saying is that we enable access to education. We equip you with the ways, and we introduce you to the elements of critical thinking. It is the community which has to do it, and then take it forward, because otherwise sustainability becomes a challenge. So if Prashant or Samantha's team is doing something, I think tomorrow if we leave, it'll come to an end. The key here is local ownership and leadership. So for us, sustainability is led by local actors. For us, that is the key.
Absolutely. And more the success that you see, the more you will end up drawing such people to carry on the good work. So clearly, I think you mentioned COVID and the fact that organizations you have sustained, you have stuck on during COVID. It itself speaks a volume about your work. I've heard about what you speak and the people who are part of your journey. But I'm sure some other people who may be listening to this would also be interested in part of your journey. So would you like to put something out there where where you can make like an appeal maybe to people in terms of how they can come forward and contribute to your mission. Yeah.
So I think first and foremost, I am thankful to you because you have given us an opportunity to talk about ourselves. I think that in itself would become a medium for people to know about our work. I think I'm a techie, so coming from an IT background, when I entered the development or social sector or whatever you may call it, I observed that most of the work is happening in urban areas. I think 90% of the focus is again on urban areas. Then some focus here or there comes down to rural areas. I think forest areas are hardly in the picture anywhere. That's been my experience. But I think opportunities like these, give us a platform where we can ask people to, at least inquire about us. No, go ahead and look us out. We have a website. We are there on social media. We're everywhere. So people can look out what we are doing and see there are different ways to contribute. I mean, we've got this wonderful group of fellows, whom people from different domains can mentor. We've got this wonderful education project going in which there are different elements like STEM is a very key element nowadays. Then we've got libraries, we've got daily programming that happens inside the school. So different ways in which people can join in and visit us also. We welcome you if you're willing to live in live in a place like this, eat local food and sustain on less water and less electricity. If that works for you, you're welcome. I mean, we'll be more than happy to host you. You can definitely connect with us as and when you like.
Super, yeah, Prashant. So nice to have this quick conversation with you. Thank you so much for sharing the work that you do and wishing you all the very best.
Yeah, thank you, Santosh. Thanks a ton. I mean, how you figured us out, I don't know that, but it's good that you at least figured us out that we are there somewhere. We're thankful to your team, that you give us the opportunity.